Why did this ancient reptile thrive exclusively within the narrow geological window of early Cretaceous Argentina? How did evolutionary dwarfism transform this massive lineage into one of the smallest known sauropod dinosaurs on Earth? What precise anatomical adaptations restricted its feeding habits strictly to middle-height vegetation while avoiding both extremes? How could a predator half its size successfully hunt this giant using pure momentum and serrated teeth? What environmental pressures across fragmented Gondwanan landscapes forced this creature to shrink its size and shorten its neck? Did those extraordinary parallel neural spines actually support a living twin sail, used for intense mating rivalries? Don't miss what comes next in this story. Watch to the very end.
I'm Jonny Dony, and this channel explores dinosaur evolution through grounded, real paleontological science. Today's film, Shadows of the Twin Sails, follows the distinctive Amargasaurus across Cretaceous floodplains. Monetization has grown unpredictable lately, and this channel now relies on direct viewer support. Please consider becoming a Patreon sponsor, as every contribution helps produce the next film, link below. Please like and subscribe to stay connected with future documentaries. Now, let's step into the past.
Shadows of the Twin Sails. All things are mortal but the sea. Archibald MacLeish. Floodplain Cretaceous. Rain sweeps across a broad river valley in what is now Neuquén Province, Argentina. Between 129 and 122 million years ago, the La Amarga Formation laid down its sediments here through the Barremian and early Aptian of the early Cretaceous. This is a humid, temperate lowland, warm and wet through the year. Dense stands of conifers rise above thickets of cycads and ginkgos, and ferns carpet the damp ground between rivers and standing lakes. Consistent moisture sustains a thick understory across the floodplain. South America still rides on the southern supercontinent of Gondwana, its coasts only beginning to part from Africa. Isolation shapes everything that lives here. The La Amarga fauna evolve in near seclusion, adapting to a basin cut off from the wider Cretaceous world. Among the herbivores browsing these forests moves Amargasaurus, a sauropod 9 to 12 meters long. It shares the floodplain with the far larger Titanosaur Antisaurus, the two partitioning the vegetation to ease competition, each feeding at a different height. The waterways hold their own residents. The crocodilian Argentina champsa lies still in the shallows, waiting at the river margin, while diverse squamates hunt among the ferns. Every drink at the water's edge carries risk in this ancient South American basin. Above every Amargasaurus back rise twin rows of tall spines, their sail catching the light as the herds move through the trees. This whole ecosystem, sealed within one Gondwanan basin, would shape their entire story. Here, in the Cretaceous floodplains of La Amarga, it begins. This chapter confirms that Amargasaurus evolved twin rows of elongated neural spines within an isolated Gondwanan floodplain. We want to know how you interpret this unique adaptation. Drop your analysis in the comments below. Like and subscribe. The next chapter examines how dwarfism reshaped its entire body plan.
Dwarfed Stature. Consider the frame of this creature, a compact body plan that stretched only 9 to 12 meters long, from muzzle to tail tip. Against the towering diplodocoids that shared its lineage, it registered as almost miniature, a sauropod scaled down to fit a narrower world. 4 sturdy limbs carried it in the steadfast quadrupedal stance, inherited from its clade. There was no lightness of a bipedal runner here, every stride pressed deliberately into the earth. A small giant, moving with the unhurried gravity of its kind. The neck told the most surprising story. Where relatives extended theirs into sweeping columns, this species carried a shortened neck, cropped and economical, balanced by a proportionally long skull that lent the profile an unfamiliar silhouette. That silhouette set it apart within the whole sweep of sauropod evolution. No other member of its group wore quite this arrangement of abbreviated neck and elongate head, a signature as distinctive as any fingerprint pressed into deep time. Its dwarfism was no accident of a single animal, but a broader trend among Gondwanan dicryosaurids. Fragmented landscapes and thinning resources appear to have favored the modest over the immense, selecting steadily for restraint in scale. Adults are thought to weigh far less than their colossal cousins, a moderate mass that spared them the relentless energy demands of giant growth. That thrift let the animal thread through dense vegetation with an ease no towering sauropod could match. Could a shortened neck really define a sauropod's survival? We traced how dwarfed proportions and a long skull created a unique evolutionary path through resource-limited landscapes. Share your perspective in the comments. Like and subscribe. The next chapter reveals how peg-like teeth and fixed neck height unlocked a specialized mid-level diet.
Mid-level brows. Look closely at the jaws. Rows of slender, peg-like teeth line the long skull, built not for cutting but for stripping. They rake fibrous conifer and cycad fronds from the stem, then the gut does the slow work of digestion. The twin rows of neural spines that crown the neck carry a hidden cost. So long and so closely spaced, they lock the neck against lifting, so the head cannot swing high into the canopy. This animal is built to feed low. Precise clues reveal the habitual pose. The orientation of the inner ear and the articulation of the neck vertebrae confirm a browsing height between 0.8 and 2.7 meters above the ground. Here, at mid-level, the animal spends most of its foraging day. At that level thrives a dense understory. Ferns unfurl in the damp shade, cycads spread stiff crowns, and young conifers push up in tangled thickets. This is a rich larder of tough, low-growing plant food, renewed by the humid climate. This low diet keeps the peace among giants. While the towering Titanosaur Andosaurus reaches for high foliage that Amargasaurus can never touch, the smaller sauropod works the layer beneath. By feeding at different heights, the two avoid direct rivalry for the same fronds. Hour upon hour, the herd moves at a slow, deliberate pace, cropping the middle greenery as it goes. No sudden reach, no wasted motion, only the patient rhythm of a specialist. In the crowded floodplain, this narrow band of vegetation is an entire world. While earlier chapters detailed its compact frame, this one reveals a precise feeding strategy. We confirmed that restricted neck mobility forced specialization at mid-level vegetation. Comment on this adaptation below. Like and subscribe. The next chapter shows how predators test this defense.
Predator confrontation. Low in the ferns, a shape moves against the herd. Carnophelus, an abelisaurid barely half their mass at 6 to 7 meters, is the apex predator of this floodplain. It watches for the isolated, the young, the slow, and waits. Within the herd, rivalry has its own theatre. 2 adult bulls turn broadside, twin sails flushed and towering, each measuring the other's size. Shoulder meets shoulder in a slow, heaving shove, until one bull yields ground and the contest is settled without a strike. Then Carnuphellis commits. It charges from cover, momentum behind serrated jaws aimed at the flank, an ambush built on speed. But an adult Amargasaurus braces its 5 tons and swings the long head like a club. The blow is enough, and the predator falls back. Danger waits at the waterline too. As the herd drinks, the crocodilian Argentina champsa surges from the shallows, jaws snapping shut at a foreleg. A stamp of the great foot and a shove of the shoulder drive the attacker back beneath the surface. The cost falls hardest on the young. When seasonal drought scatters the herd, a lone juvenile loses the shelter of the adult's bulk. The conspicuous sail, so useful in display, cannot hasten escape, and against a determined predator, the isolated calf faces its gravest threat. For the adults, though, size remains the answer. A grown Amargasaurus, bracing and swinging, is a match no lone abelosaurid can afford to press. As Carnuphellis withdraws into the ferns, the herd closes ranks and the twin sails ripple once more above the understory. The predator survived, but the ecosystem itself would become the true threat. We traced how rigid specialization turned fatal when the floodplain dried out. Comment your prediction below. Like and subscribe. The next chapter reveals the slow-motion collapse that ended their lineage.
Ecosystem decline. Nothing in this world holds still, not even the floodplain. Across the closing Barremian, some 122 million years ago, the rhythm of rivers and rainfall begins to change, and the vegetation of Neuquén shifts with it. Slowly, the familiar forest starts to thin. For a browser bound to a narrow band of greenery, this is catastrophe in slow motion. As drier conditions spread, the cycad and fern thickets that fed the herd's retreat, and the mid-level larder empties. The specialist has nowhere else to turn. Its anatomy offers no escape. The locked neck and low browsing height that once carved out a niche now become a trap, for the animal cannot rise to reach whatever foliage remains higher up. Rigid specialization, so long an advantage, turns fatal. As feeding grounds break apart, the populations fracture with them. Isolated herds dwindle in shrinking pockets of green, unable to sustain their numbers as the resource base collapses. Across the entire range of the species, the same quiet decline takes hold. And so, during the Early Cretaceous, Amargasaurus makes its final exit. The last of the twin-sailed sauropods fade from the La Amarga floodplain. Their lineage ended in the early Aptian. No blow, no apex predator brings them down, only a world that has moved on. Their end comes tens of millions of years before the asteroid at Chicxulub and the great extinction that would close the age of dinosaurs. These sauropods never met that catastrophe. Their world had already been lost, ecosystem by ecosystem, long before the final curtain fell. This chapter proves that rigid specialization becomes fatal when ecosystems shift. We see how climate change dismantled their feeding niche, leading to silent extinction. Share your analysis of this vulnerability in the comments below. Like and subscribe, for the next chapter reveals how their bones survived to tell this story.
Sediment Remains. Long ago, on the banks of a Neuquén river, a single Amargasaurus fell for the last time. Its carcass settled into the soft sediment, and fine mud sealed the bones away before they could scatter. There the animal lay, becoming part of the rock itself. Over the ages, the mud hardened to stone, and the buried skeleton was preserved in remarkable order. Groundwater seeped through the bone, and mineral by mineral replaced it, until the animal endured as fossil rather than flesh. Millions of years passed above it in silence. In 1984, in the Badlands of Neuquén province, a field team found it at last. They recovered a nearly complete skeleton, the finest of its kind ever unearthed. José Bonaparte would describe and name the animal in 1991, 7 years after its discovery. The stone held an astonishment along the backbone. 2 parallel rows of tall neural spines rose from the neck and trunk, some reaching 50 centimeters, a form matched by no other sauropod. Here at last was the twin sail preserved in solid rock. That anatomy overturned old ideas. Rather than shedding heat, the paired sails most likely served as visual display, a signal raised between herd members. In a single fossil, paleontology found a wholly new vision of what a sauropod could be. From these preserved bones, a whole lineage steps into the light. The Dicraeosaurids, close southern kin of the great diplodocids. The living animal is gone, yet the fossil speaks for it still. In silent stone, the twin sails hold their singular story. Our journey through the La Amarga floodplains concludes here, but Amargasaurus's fossil record continues to reshape our understanding. We invite you to explore our full series on Gondwana and dinosaurs below. Subscribe and like to support our ongoing research.
Our journey through shadows of the twin sails ends here. I'm Jonny Dony, and together we traced Amargasaurus across ancient Argentine floodplains, discovering how that unique twin sail shaped survival. If this story resonated, please like and subscribe for more prehistoric explorations. New dinosaur documentaries drop on Patreon a week before the public release, link below. I deeply thank every sponsor and channel member whose steady support funds careful research. Your curiosity drives every frame of this work. In just a few seconds, 2 equally compelling dinosaur documentaries will appear on screen. Choose your next journey and keep uncovering ancient wonders.